In this video, I want to look at multiple inputs. I've already drawn the flowchart for us that I'm going to try and get achieved. So what I want to do is that if we press two switches, I want something to happen. So in this case, I've got switches on bit 0 and bit 1, which would be equivalent to decimal 3. And if we press both switches at the same time, then I want to turn an LED on, just to prove this. Now I'm using this to actually do something, but actually you could do the opposite, so that as a safety, if somebody pressed both switches rather than selecting option A or option B, you could do it, or what happens if somebody selects both, so an error condition. Okay, so how do we achieve this? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read port A, so I'm going to take port A and put it in the working register. Now with all of these programs, I probably should have said before, I'm making the assumption that we've made port A an input and port B an output. So that's already predefined as part of my initial configuration. So I've read the input port and put it in the working register. The next thing I want to do is I want to clear the 0 flag in the status register. I quite like using the 0 flag, it comes in quite handy. So I'm going to clear the 0 flag in the status register. So there we have, we've got our clear function. Our clear function, what are we clearing? Well, we're clearing the 0 flag within this in the status register. Okay, and this is where the magic happens, which is why I've used decimal 3. Now I could actually write this in binary, but actually in this scenario it's more intuitive for me to work in decimal. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to look to subtract from the working register. Now if both switches are in press, what would be in the working register would be a 1 and a 1, equivalent of 3. So if I subtract 3 from it, then the 0 flag, because the result 3 minus 3 is 0, so the 0 flag would be set. If none of the switches or one of the switches has been pressed, then the 0 flag would not be set because the result would not be 0. So we can determine if both switches have been pressed by using the 0 flag. So I'm going to subtract 3 from the working register. Okay, so there we have it. Using a new command there, sub 3 from the working register. Say I could have used binary if I wanted to, but it makes more sense for me in this scenario to use decimal, and the editor is quite happy to accept decimal or binary or even hex actually. So I'm using our bit test function. So what bits am I going to test? I'm going to test the 0 flag in the status register, and I'm testing to see if it's set. So it would skip the next line if it was set. The only time that it would be set would be if the result was if both switches had been pressed. So what I want to do on this next line, because it's not been set, so the result is not 3, is to go back here, back to the start. So I can just go to begin. And then lastly, had it been set, then we'd skip this line. So both switches have been pressed. So I'm going to set bit 0 in port B, and then the rest of the code. So that's how we can do it for multiple switch inputs.